Is this the end?
Dang it all, cried John Brodie impatiently. Say the say out, Fanny, and make sure it's the end, and do not ask nobody whether it is or not.
Thanking you for your advice, which was not required, Mr. Brodie,
returned Miss Squeers with laborious politeness.
Have the goodness not to presume to meddle with my Christian name. Even my pity shall never make me forget what's due to myself, Mr. Brodie. Tilda,
said Miss Squeers with such a sudden accession of violence that John started in his boots.
I throw you off for ever, miss. I abandon you. I renounce you.
I wouldn't, cried Miss Squeers in a solemn voice,
have a child named Tilda, not to save it from its grave.
As for the matter o' that, observed John, it'll be time enough to think about naming of it when it comes.
John,
interposed his wife, don't tease her.
Oh, tease indeed,
cried Miss Squeers, bridling up.
Tease indeed. Tease too. No, don't tease her. Consider her feelings, pray.
If it's fated that listeners are never to hear any good of themselves, said Miss Brodie, I can't help it, and I am very sorry for it, but I will say, Fanny, that times out of number I have spoken so kindly of you behind your back that even you could have found no fault with what I said.
Oh, I dare say not, ma'am,
cried Miss Squeers with another curtsy.
Best thanks to you for your goodness, and begging and praying you not to be hard upon me another time.
I don't know, resumed Mrs. Brodie, that I have said anything very bad of you even now. At all events, what I did say was quite true, but if I have, I am very sorry for it, and I beg your pardon. You have said much worse of me scores of times, Fanny, but I have never borne any malice to you, and I hope you'll not bear any to me. Miss Squeers made no more direct reply than surveying her former friend from top to toe, and elevating her nose in the air with ineffable disdain. But some indistinct allusions to a puss, and a minx, and a contemptible creature escaped her, and this, together with a severe biting of the lips, great difficulty in swallowing, and very frequent comings and goings of breath, seemed to imply that feelings were swelling in Miss Squeers's bosom too great for utterance. While the foregoing conversation was proceeding, Master Wackford, finding himself unnoticed, and feeling his preponderating inclination strong upon him, had by little and little sidled up to the table, and attacked the food with such slight skirmishing as drawing his fingers round and round the inside of the plates, and afterwards sucking them with infinite relish, picking the bread, and dragging the pieces over the surface of the butter, pocketing lumps of sugar, pretending all the time to be absorbed in thought, and so forth. Finding that no interference was attempted with these small liberties, he gradually mounted to greater, and after helping himself to a moderately good cold collation, was, by this time, deep in the pie. Nothing of this had been unobserved by Mr. Squeers, who, so long as the attention of the company was fixed upon other objects, hugged himself to think that his son and heir should be fattening at the enemy's expense. But there being now an appearance of a temporary calm, in which the proceedings of little Wackford could scarcely fail to be observed, he feigned to be aware of the circumstance for the first time, and inflicted upon the face of that young gentleman a slap that made the very teacups ring. "Eating!" cried Mr. Squeers. "Of what his father's enemies has left, it's fit to go and poison you, you unnatural boy." "It won't hurt him," said John, apparently very much relieved by the prospect of having a man in the quarrel. "Let 'em eat. I wish the whole school was here. I'd give 'em summat to stay their unfortunate stomachs with, if I spent the last penny I had." Squeers scowled at him with the worst and most malicious expression of which his face was capable. It was a face of remarkable capability, too, in that way, and shook his fist stealthily. "Come, come, schoolmaster," said John, "do not make a fool of thyself, for if I was to shake mine, only once, thou'd fall down with the wind o' it." "It was you, was it?" returned Squeers, "that helped off my runaway boy? It was you, was it?" "Me?" returned John in a loud tone. "Yes, it war me, coom. What o' that? It war me. Noo then." "You hear him say he did it, my child?" said Squeers, appealing to his daughter. "You hear him say he did it?" Did it? Cried John. I'll tell 'ee more. Hear this too. If thou'd got another runaway boy, I'd do it again. If thou'd got 20 runaway boys, I'd do it 20 times o'er, and 20 more to that. And I tell thee more, said John. Noo my blood is up that thou'rt an old rascal, and that is weel for thou be'st an old un, or I'd ha' pounded thee to flour when thou told an honest man who thou'd licked that poor chap into courch. An honest man? Cried Squeers with a sneer. Ah, an honest man, replied John. Honest in aught but ever putting legs under same table with such as thou. Scandal, said Squeers exultingly. 2 witnesses to it. Wackford knows the nature of an oath, he does. We shall have you there, sir. Rascal, eh? Mr. Squeers took out his pocket-book and made a note of it. Very good. I should say that was worth full £20 at the next assizes, without the honesty, sir. Sizes, cried John. Thou'd better not talk to me of sizes. Yorkshire schools have been shown up at sizes afore noo, man, and it's a ticklish subject to revive, I can tell ye. Mr. Squeers shook his head in a threatening manner, looking very white with passion, and taking his daughter's arm and dragging little Wackford by the hand, retreated towards the door. As for you, said Squeers, turning round and addressing Nicholas, who, as he had caused him to smart pretty soundly on a former occasion, purposely abstained from taking any part in the discussion. See if I ain't down upon you before long. You'll go a-kidnapping of boys, will you? Take care their fathers don't turn up. Mark that. Take care their fathers don't turn up, and send 'em back to me to do as I like with in spite of you. I am not afraid of that, replied Nicholas, shrugging his shoulders contemptuously and turning away. Ain't you? Retorted Squeers with a diabolical look. Now then, come along.
I leave such society with my pa forever, said Miss Squeers, looking contemptuously and loftily round. I am defiled by breathing the air with such creatures. Poor Mr. Brodie, I do pity him, that I do. He's so deluded, artful and designing Tilda. With this sudden relapse into the sternest and most majestic wrath, Miss Squeers swept from the room, and having sustained her dignity until the last possible moment, was heard to sob and scream and struggle in the passage. John Brodie remained standing behind the table, looking from his wife to Nicholas, and back again, with his mouth wide open, until his hand accidentally fell upon the tankard of ale, when he took it up, and having obscured his features therewith for some time, drew a long breath, handed it over to Nicholas, and rang the bell. Here, waiter, said John briskly. Look alive here. Tak these things away, and let's have summat broiled for supper. Very comfortable and plenty o' it. At 10 o'clock, bring some brandy and some water and a pair of slippers, the largest pair in the house, and be quick about it. Dash my wig, said John, rubbing his hands. There's no ganging out to-night, no, to fetch anybody home, and ecod, we'll begin to spend the evening in earnest. End of chapter 42. Recording by Timothy Pinkham. Timothy, PINKHAM.com. La Palma, California, May 2009.